Welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast, where we bring you insightful conversations with thought leaders and influencers who are making headway and some waves in their industries. Today, we have a great guest who embodies the idea that the impossible is just a word and not something to be feared. This guest has turned life's challenges into a launchpad for substantial success. He is a sales powerhouse, having generated over $13 million in sales through his attitude and determination, and he's also transformed his way of thinking to become a weight loss warrior, getting more than 100 pounds and reclaiming his health. As a brand builder and best-selling author, he has not only created businesses, but he's helping to build legacies. From tech support to vice president of a multi-million-dollar consulting company, our guest knows what it means to start from the bottom and climb to the top. His journey is one of perseverance and an unwavering commitment to personal growth. Get ready to be inspired as we explore the philosophy behind Call the Damn Leads and crush the day before it crushes you. Whether you're an inspiring entrepreneur, someone struggling with their image, or just looking to level up in life, this episode will be packed with insights you do not want to miss. Now, before we roll that intro, please share this show with your friends and networks. I know many are going to enjoy this conversation. Two other things. If you could be so kind as to give 5 a.m. Podcast a 5-star review on your favorite podcast player, we would appreciate it. And if you really want to support the show, head over to buymeacoffee.com/5am podcast and drop a few virtual bills into the barrel. Now, let's roll that intro. Drewbie Wilson, welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. I'm excited to be here. As someone who loves the 5 a.m. club and all things early morning, I cannot wait to share with everyone else who enjoys it as well.
Good. The early bird truly does get the worm. I used to hate that when I was younger. My parents would say that. The other one was tomorrow's another day. Just go to bed so you can get up early, do your chores. So that's good. Let's start with your origin story of going from tech support to vice president. That must have taken a lot of effort.
You know, it's the culmination of a lifetime of effort. Funny enough, I had a lot of jobs over the years, and the opportunity to go and be a part of that tech support in the startup corporation that I was with kind of came out of the blue. It's funny because it was divine timing, and also looking back at it, a culmination of me putting in a lot of time, energy, and effort for something that I didn't know quite at the time what it would lead to, and also ended up being one of the greatest opportunities of my life. And what I mean by that is I was in sales selling insurance and trying to figure out how to sell more insurance products, and learned that as a sales guy, I need more leads. If I had more leads, I could sell more stuff, I could make more money. It was just a basic math problem. So I went online and started learning marketing. And I started getting my own leads. And then the program that I was using to build my websites with, I was helping other users of that software, and caught the attention of the owner. And the owner calls me up one day and says, "Hey man, would you be interested in working with me? I need someone like you who can help my users, and seems like you're doing a great job and the community really likes what you have going on." And I was,
wow.
I mean, it was like blessing. Like, heck yeah, of course I want that opportunity. And so I took that opportunity and continued working really hard and helping others and serving the community that I was now a part of with this software. And it led to more opportunity to help people with other products and services. And it ended up being that the corporation that I went to work with, being employee number 3 in the company, helping serve, we ended up growing to, I think at our biggest, there was probably 70 employees among the different departments. Now, I wasn't over all of them, but certainly played my part in different areas. And it was such a interesting time of my life over what ultimately ended up being a 5-year span, from going in the door at tech support to when I ended up leaving and starting Call the Damn Leads and going out on my own entrepreneurial journey.
Awesome. And that is a great journey. That entrepreneurial one, it takes a lot of support from like those close to us, family members, but it sure takes a lot of battling that ugly monster called fear.
Mm.
Do you think that's maybe one of the reasons why salespeople don't pick up the phone to call the damn leads?
I think that's a fantastic explanation for why they're not picking up the phone to call the damn leads.
Yes.
I think it's a fear of rejection. I think it's a fear of not being confident what to say when someone picks up the phone. We've gotten so used to hiding behind the little black screen these days that human communication has somewhat lost its luster. And also, I think this is the greatest time for those of you who are willing to be better communicators. Because when you start having more genuine, authentic conversations, it's less salesy, it's less spammy, and it honestly feels a little more natural than those of you that are trying to pick up the phone and read off a script, and the only reason you're doing it is because you want to make money.
Totally.
And,
And ladies and gentlemen, for me, in my experience, I'll tell you what's harder than picking up the phone to call the damn leads is realizing you have to build relationship.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit about that, Drewbie? About, man, that is like one horse that it's hard to catch sometimes.
It is. And I think the hardest part about that for most individuals, and I know I'm guilty of this as well, so I don't want to sit here and act like I'm preaching, but you know what? We're all very self-centered in a way. And we all have our own lives. We all have our own situations and problems and goals and dreams and all of the perspectives of life that we're blessed with. And so I think what I had to learn along the way, and I kind of encourage others to think about is, if you were in their shoes, how would you want to be treated? And I know that's very cliche, but most of us hate being sold to.
Yes.
So you can't sell others if you hate being sold to.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect there.
That's good. That's good. And that relationship, the next thing after relationship, I think it was Jim Rohn that said, fortune is in the follow-up.
Amen.
That follow-up is so key. Can you talk, because that's another way where you have to pick up the black mirror and get on there and follow up. Can you talk about that process a little bit?
I can, and it's one of the things that I highly encourage anyone who's in sales or small business entrepreneurship of any sort to check out my book called The Damn Leads, because I go far into depth with sales and follow-up specifically. But the secret to it is to create a system and stick to it.
Yes.
The problem is most people are like, okay, I got a new lead and I called it once and then I maybe called it twice and then I got busy and then another lead came in, so I started calling that one. And then all of a sudden there's 5, 10, 20 leads that have been sitting around for 2 weeks that haven't been contacted. And that is where the majority of people miss their opportunity, is by not staying consistent. And so I always just encourage people, hey, create a routine and just stick to it. That's the easiest way to have success.
That's right. And the other thing that I thought of just as we're talking here is the self-interest. The world's favorite radio station is WIIFM, ladies and gentlemen.
Amen.
What's in it for me? And so how do we, the sales guys and gals out there have to remember what's in it for me is not just for the person you're calling and thinking of their self-interest. One of the reasons you have to have your plan and work the plan, and Drewbie can talk about this, is your own self-interest. Can you talk about how we can motivate ourselves in sales just through our own self-interest?
Love that, Michael. And I think for me, I like to use my calls framework, and I named it that so that it would be very funny and cliche, and also because I always call them microwave directions. It's like, hey, if I just have a simple set of directions to follow every time, it's more likely that I'm going to get a pretty consistent result. It's not always perfect, right?
Nope.
Like we've all burnt something in the microwave or like made a big mess. Don't get me wrong. But majority of the time, if we just trust the process, it comes out right. So the calls framework for me, and this is how it makes it simple, is it's the same process every time. And that's how it focuses on my self-interest, because the first thing I'm doing is confirming the reason we're having a conversation. That's the C. Yeah. Because if I'm not a good fit to help you, or you're not a good fit for me to be able to help you, I don't want to waste any time together. Nothing personal. Time's my most valuable asset, and I can't get more of it. So, like, if we're going to spend some time together, this needs to be very intentional. And then the A is asking specific and relevant questions, because interesting people are interested in others.
Yeah.
And if you're asking the right questions, you're going to be able to know very quickly whether or not you can or cannot help this person. And if you can, awesome. Move to the next process. But if you can't, then, hey, not a big deal. Who do I know that is the right fit, right? So if you're asking questions, you have to listen, which is the first L in calls. And if you're listening, people were going to tell you everything you need to know to help them. And if you know everything you need to help them, all you have to do is the next L, which is lay out the plan to succeed. You're the expert, not them. So your job is to understand where they're at in their journey and then show them how to get to where they're trying to go. And if you lay out a really clear plan, the S, that's secure the bag. Because all of that, none of the stuff before matters if you don't get paid. And we've all met people who are really great at building rapport and generating that interest, but when it's time to ask for the sale, they clam up or they get nervous.
Oh yeah, that is sometimes a pretty high hill to climb for some people, is just asking for that sale. And you know, from my point of view, thinking about the Bible, it says you have not because you ask not. And I mean, there's some really good sales tips in the Bible, but if people don't want to read the Bible, they could at least go with the Stoics. There's something every day in the Stoics. And I am pretty sure the Stoics lead most people to the Holy Bible, because they just kind of fit hand in hand together.
Funny enough, I read two books. Well, there's a couple of dailies that I read every day, but one of them is the Daily Stoic, and the other is Leadership Promises for Every Day by John C. Maxwell. So this is more of a biblical style leadership, and then the Stoic, obviously. I mean, but these are the principles.
Yes, they sure are.
The people who are smarter than us have already laid it out. We just have to follow the process.
There are no wheels that need reinventing. And we could, seeing as how we're talking about books, there is that saying, leaders are readers. If somebody's just starting out, obviously they need your book and they need to visit your website. What are some of the minds that have helped you along the way?
I absolutely love The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Yes.
And I think what's great about that book in particular is, A, it's a fictional story, so it's not like overwhelming for most new entrepreneurs or small business owners, but it's very much about the journey and how important it is to embrace the journey and understand that all of us have big goals and dreams and aspirations. And anyone who ever achieves them does so with the daily actions and decisions that they make on that journey. So that's always my number one right off the top.
Yeah. Now, what's your website?
Callthedamnleads.com.
Yeah.
Very simple.
It's a
simple
good site.
sales.
There's lots of great stuff on there. Of course, our website is 5ampodcast.com. The reason that I'm bringing up the websites is, in the last, say, 5 years that my wife and I have had 5ampodcast.com, our number one download is our goal-setting worksheet. Now, we should have monetized it for the amount of downloads that we get from it, but it's one of those things that we want to give and we know that we'll receive. But can you talk to us about goals in sales and how important that is?
Yes. So for me, goals in sales, super duper important, but I don't think it's always necessarily what the monetary goal is. I think it's about the activity goal. So speaking of things that we give away for way, way too cheap, I have the Diary of a Damn Closer.
Yeah, that's good. I saw that on there.
It talks about the activity and what the goal needs to be every day to be successful in sales. I call it, and I'm going to give it to you guys for free right here on this podcast. So listen up. It's called the 100-10-2 rule. And what that means is that every day that you're working, if you make at least 100 outreaches, maybe you're calling the damn leads, maybe it's a text message, email, maybe a direct message on social media platforms, right? There's a lot of different ways that we can outreach to someone.
Yeah.
If you do 100 unique outreaches every day, the idea is you should probably have 10 decent conversations where you get to go through the calls framework, ask your questions, pre-qualify, build rapport, and then maybe even make an offer. And out of those 10, maybe you get 2 sales or 2 appointments from it. Maybe you get to set 2 follow-ups. Maybe you close a deal out of the thing, right? Depending on what you sell, your timeline for sales could vary. And if you get at least 2 out of those 3 metrics every single day of the month that you're working, because not everybody works 7 days a week. They're not all crazy like me. But if you do that 21 to 22 days a month and you law of large numbers, you're going to make 100 outreaches every month, maybe talk to somewhere around 150 to 200 people. And if you're doing a decent job of actually following the process, you're going to close between 15 and 25% of the people you talk to over that time period, which means you're getting 25 to 30 deals a month. And if you're not making enough money in commission off of 25 to 30 deals a month, go sell something different, or understand that you don't have to sell as much volume to make as much money because your product or service is different. But that's the math. What's the goal? 110, 2. I want 2 out of 3 of those every day, and I know I'm going to be successful.
Yes. Now, one of the things when we're making these calls or communicating with people over the interwebs is remembering to think the best of whoever you're talking to and think the best of the situation. You know, that was one of the things that I always had to do in my mind was, this guy's not in a bad mood. Maybe he's having a rough day, but he's thinking positive thoughts about me. I'm thinking positive thoughts about him. And we got to have that is it PMA, positive mental attitude?
I believe it is.
Without that, what do we have? Is there a time in your life, maybe you can give us an example from the past where you felt like you were just like, you were close to hitting rock bottom because you were digging deep, but maybe headed in the wrong direction, or you just needed a little bit of a pick-me-up to keep going?
I mean, how long do I have? I could tell you probably 3 dozen of those kinds of stories, because that is the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. And what I love about it is that in those dark moments, for me, you know, one of the worst was going through a season where a company I had helped build along the way, some of the people who I had helped started not treating me as kindly as I wanted, and kind of started pushing me to take my position that I had rightfully earned. And you know what? I had to look back and say, man, this kind of stinks. These kids that I've mentored and helped along the way, now they're trying to push me out, and that's the way of the world. And so in that dark moment, I had to look up and go, you know what, though? This is the jungle. And in the jungle, the strong survive. And so even though it felt like a dark moment, I let that light illuminate me and remind me that we are all built to survive things that we don't even know we're going through yet. And that's the thing, and why there's podcasts and people like myself and Michael who share these stories, because we know that there are those dark moments, and it's going and finding those other sources of light and energy that help bring you through them. And the best thing that you can do is to be a source of light or energy for someone else with your stories.
Right. Yeah, the big thing that I found in life is, if you're really going through it, find somebody who's going through the same thing and help them out of it.
Amen.
And just work alongside people. These are lessons that so many of us either have experienced or are going to. It's a guarantee, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are, you're going to hit that dark night of the soul. Sometimes it feels like a dark week of the soul. Are there some lessons that you could pass on to that younger generation, the young ones that are full of vim and vigor, but they need a little bit of wisdom maybe?
You know, hindsight's 20/20 in school is very expensive.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Unfortunately, as a young man, I didn't want to hear it from anybody. I knew everything there was to know, and wasn't anybody going to tell me nothing. So if I can share any bit of wisdom with the younger version of myself, and maybe those of you listening right now who are sub 30, maybe in your early 20s, right? Like I'm mid 30s at this point. Trust the process. It's really hard. It's kind of scary sometimes, and it doesn't always make sense. But, you know, they say success leaves clues. I say they leave microwave directions. Trust the process. If you trust the process, if you do the work, you're going to get a result. What that result will look like will depend on the work and the effort that you put in. But if you trust the process, it'll get you there.
Yeah. Exactly. Now let's talk about the people that support us. Being married, having that significant other in your life and some little ones running around. You've mentioned about saving your marriage by redefining the value of time and setting boundaries. And having that knowledge is really a game changer. Can you elaborate on this process and its impact in your both of your like your personal and professional life?
Yes, and again, we could probably spend a whole couple hours on this, so I
Yeah,
want to be respectful of time, but let
sure.
me premise with this. There was a moment in my journey where on Christmas Eve, my wife handed me her wedding ring back and said, "Listen, I love you and we love you. You know, I have a 9-year-old son." She's like, "We love you, but you're married to the job and you need to make a decision what you want more. Do you want success or do you want a family?" And that was really difficult, because at the time, in my own selfish way, I thought, well, you know, you don't have to work because I retired you. I make the money. I take care of all the things. I don't have crazy hobbies or anything where I'm, doing anything wild. But it was in the moment that I realized that even if you're in their presence, you still have to be there. And in my mind, I was creating this future life way, way out here. And in the moments where we were on the couch and watching a movie, I was distant. And I didn't put two and two together that I was creating a bigger gap by not communicating and by not involving them in what I was building. And the thing that most people trip up on is like, oh, I'm building this legacy, this future. But if they're not going to be there in the future, then what are you really building?
Yeah.
And that to me was really where I had to start learning boundaries and understanding, what is my time truly worth? And if I'm going to invest it, is it going to get me the return that I'm looking for?
Yeah. That's a great point. And those relationships are so key. It was making me think of this football coach, Frank Zambothy. And what a guy. What a guy he was. When you were around Frank, you could be in a room with 30 people. And when you were talking with Frank, it was like he knew that you were the only person in that space.
Mm.
And more than one person would say that about Frank. And I'm sure there's probably some mentors maybe that you've learned from over the years. Can you tell us some stories?
Man, could I? One of my favorite quotes from a mentor that I like to use is, "Methods are many, principles are few. Methods may vary, but principles never do." And I always boil it down to, there's a million ways to make $1 million. And anyone who's ever made $1 million is going to tell you there's a few core principles they had to live by in order to make that a reality. That was that they valued their time, they respected others, and that they invested their assets wisely. And, I've always felt like you can learn it on your own. There's books, there's YouTube, there's literally everything that you need to be whatever you want to be in life out there. But if you want to speed up the process, find someone who's done it and learn from them to avoid the mistakes, because it's the mistakes that cost you time, energy, and effort. We can all make more money. Time, energy, and effort we can't get more of, or can't give more of in the moment.
Yeah. So during your career, as you're moving through life, can you give us like a top 3 or top 5 qualities or things that young men or young women need to think about? Like, for example, health would be one of those. Would you have that top 3 or top 5 list?
Yeah, so for me, it looks like this. Sleep is number one. I live by something called the 4 6s. So this
Okay,
is perfect because it goes great with the time thing. So
good.
the 4 6s is this. If we know there's 24 hours in a day, to me, there's 4 areas of life that are really, really important. Sleep is number one, because I grew up in the streets doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and I've been up for 3, 4 days on end, and it's just not a good look. Anyone at my age, especially now, we need our
Yes,
beauty rests. So like
totally.
sleep's number one. Then most of us, it's our family, our relationships, that legacy, that why, the people in our lives that matter. Then we have our business, because I don't have like FU money yet, and I'm trying to get
Yes.
there, but like I still got to work every day, right? And then we have ourselves, which is why, unfortunately, a lot of people put themselves at the bottom of that list, and they're burnout, they're unhappy, they're overweight, they're unhealthy, right? The things that are going on in their life. And what's crazy to me is that so many are saying that they are trying to be the best version of themselves for all these other areas, but they're putting themselves at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
And
Can't
if
do
you've
that.
ever been on an airplane, they'll tell you in an emergency meeting, hey, the first thing you have to do is put your own oxygen mask on. And so in life, I think the 4 areas are sleep, you have to put yourself first so that you can be the best you for your family and then for your business. And, we all got to work. We all got things that are important. We got priorities and responsibilities. But here's what's important. If you're intentional with your time, and we look at the 4 sixes, we can sleep for 6 hours. We can spend 6 hours on us, 6 hours on our business, and 6 hours on our relationships. And where does that leave us? As close to a balanced life as possible.
So smart. So smart. So I wanted to ask you about how adversity has shaped who you are today. Can you talk about the value of adversity?
I mean, in the sense that you got to grow through what you go
Yes.
through.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
cliched way to put it, but, truthfully, if you want to get stronger, you have to put yourself under pressure. And a lot of times what humans are great at is getting into their comfort zone. And the only way to get out of that comfort zone is to get into some sort of pain or have some sort of great desire that moves you to get up. Listen, I love come 8:30, 9 o'clock, I curl up on the couch. I might watch a movie with my little guy. And that is my safe zone, my absolute comfort zone. It's so easy for me to be there. And it's really difficult to get me to move from that situation once I'm there. And it either has to be something painful in that I got a crick in my neck, or I realize, hey, I got to get to bed because I don't want to fall asleep on the couch. Or it's something desirable of, hey, I know that this moment can only last for so long, so I'm going to embrace it as much as I can before making the conscious decision to get up out of the comfort zone and keep moving forward, because the only way to get the next result is to get out of the current comfort zone.
Yeah. And that's actually something very similar to something that was taught to me many years ago, is that we travel in the same direction as our friends. And if you realize my friends are kind of heading in the wrong direction, that probably says a lot about myself. And was there a point in your career as you were building things that you realized you needed better friends?
That's an interesting question. And also I have a very relatable story to that. So when I was on my entrepreneurial up and coming journey,
yes,
I mean, I grew up in the streets selling kind of anything and everything I could get my hands on. So like, I wasn't always what you would call the example of a poster child for good kids.
Yeah, sure.
As I became an adult, I became an insurance salesman. And that was like my legitimate job. I got into real, grown big boy stuff, and I was having some success with it. And the agency owner took me to an awards event. And, awards events, they have big dinners and it's always a big to-do. And so at the dinner, we're having a conversation and he's like, listen, man, I'm really, really proud of you. You're doing amazing things and you've got all these great, potential in the future. But I really need you to think that who you surround yourself with matters. And, all these people that you run with now, and I know they're your friends and whatever, but they're not going to help you get to the future. And, we talked about earlier, young kids think they know it all. I kind of just scoffed and laughed it off and was just like, yeah, whatever, dude. You don't know me and my friends. Like, those are my people. But I can look back now 10 years later and all those people that were my friends, they're not around. I don't talk to them. None of them are here supporting me in my journey and what I have going on. Or I shouldn't say none of them. That's a lie. There's very, very few, 1 to 2 of the dozens of people that I called close friends at the time. And it's so interesting how that does shift. And the cliche of you become the culmination of the people you spend the most time with. There's so much truth to that. And anyone who wants to level up, whether it's on their personal life and their relationships, their spiritual side, their physical side, you have to get around people who follow that same belief and that same effort, or you're not going to get there.
Yeah. And success requires a lot of hard conversations. Like if there's a couple and the guy or the gal wants to, reach some milestones and get to some plateaus or some new levels in their career, you really got to have that question of, am I doing right now what is going to get me where I need to be? And you think about skyscrapers, they got to dig deep. They got to, however many stories they're going up, they got to dig deep and plant a good foundation. So what would be a good foundation? I mean, it's never too late to start. If someone's in their 20s, 30s, 40s, it's not too late to start and build on a strong foundation. What would you say is a good place to start if somebody actually needs to do the groundwork in their life?
I think it's right now. It's right here. It's that moment that you hear the message that finally clicks for you that says, hey, only nothing changes if nothing changes. And to me, I think it's that foundation of, hey, what is your time worth? Objectively, we can do the math on it. Take all the money you made last year and divide it by 2,000. If you're an average person, which you're not because you're here listening to this show at 5 a.m., but if you were, you'd work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. 40 times 50 is 2,000. If you made $50,000 last year, that means your 1 hour is worth $25. But the scariest part is if I put on a hood and I knock on the door and I'm like, excuse me, sir, I'm sorry, but you have 24 hours left to live. Here's $25. Please come with me. Odds are you're not going to want to come with me for $25.
Yeah.
You know, like, no, I don't want to give up one of my last 24 hours for that. That doesn't make any sense. And yet the whole world still operates as if they have some unlimited amount of time when we all know the only guarantees in life are death and taxes.
Yeah.
Taxes, we don't know how much we're going to owe every year. We have to guess until someone tells us. And even then, we're still not 100% sure.
Exactly.
I don't know. I've never met anybody that has a clock in their arm like Justin Timberlake in that movie that says
Yes.
exactly how much time I have left to live.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to try to make the best of what I have while I got it.
Yeah. And speaking of movies, I was thinking about Squid Games as you were talking. We don't watch a lot of TV or a lot of movies, but ladies and gentlemen, what our friend Drewbie is saying, I mean, think about the people who started out and that you get funneled down, that you find the people that are losing because they're laying on the ground or they've fallen off the shelf or something. So, ladies and gentlemen, think about your life, where you want to be and what you're doing. And then you got to think about your time. And God forbid your life is cut short, that you can keep going. You know, retirement I don't know, it's a day for somebody, but
it's the carrot they dangle in front of you to keep showing up to work, buddy. I hate to say it, but anybody that's ever been on a vacation by day 3, they're like, yeah, I'm kind of bored. I should probably get back to work and get some stuff done.
Yes, and that's where I was going with that. Ladies and gentlemen, there's distractions and there's carrots and there's shiny objects. But our friend Drewbie has this motto, crush the day before it crushes you. Can you walk us through that statement and how we could actually apply it to our lives?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. You mentioned Jim Rohn earlier. And when I started my journey of weight loss and personal development and really getting serious about my own actions and decisions, I used to listen to a lot of Jim Rohn and the YouTube motivationals. You know, they have all those guys, the OGs in the game. And he said something along the lines of either you run the day or the day runs you. And at the time I thought, man, that's a powerful quote, but that's his quote. I can't say that. You know, I got to come up with something of my own. And I realized that for me, it was really easy to wake up, look at my phone, open social media, turn on the news, and just get crushed by all the negativity. Someone was killed. There was a fire. A bank got robbed. Like, oh, it's Jimmy John's birthday. And then right back to the negativity. And on, you know, Facebook, all the political stuff. And, you know, whatever it is that triggers you and you see those things, it's so easy for it to ruin your day. So I thought, well, hey, I'm just going to focus on doing the things that I know make me feel good first. Gratitude, health and wellness, getting my workout out of the way because, like, I don't want to work out. It's not my favorite thing in the world to do. But if I don't do it, then I won't do it. So I have to do it first. And if I've done those things, well, man, for the most part, I'm kind of crushing it. Because if you get up early and you do a workout and you get cleaned up and you're ready to go by 7:30 in the morning when the rest of the world's just starting, well, guess what, 5 a.m.ers? You're already a couple hours ahead. And the more consistent you are with that, the more likely you are to achieve the goal you want in your life.
That's right.
And it's only going to help you get there if you stay focused. Yes. And I think that's the thing. That's where crushing the day before it crushes you comes in, because you can focus on crushing it, or you can very easily let it crush you.
Yeah, totally. And that early start to the day and being intentional. It's so easy to come up with excuses, but that need to be intentional is so key. And I see by the clock on the wall, we got to wrap things up here. So can you give us your contact information one more time?
Absolutely. So the easiest way to find me is callthedamnleads.com or at callthedamnleads on every social platform. And if y'all could do me a huge favor, share this specific episode on that platform. Send it to a friend, family member, coworker, put it on your social media, your stories, your wall, and tag us at Call the Damn Leads, because that's going to tell me that me and Michael had a great show today, that you truly got value out of our time, and how much you appreciate your time, knowing that you'd be willing to share this with someone else to listen. That would mean the world to me, and I'm sure it would mean the world to Michael as well.
You know, that's right. Now, looking ahead, what's your vision for the future, both personally and professionally? What mountains are you planning on climbing next?
So our big mission right now is that by the year 2030, I would like to see a Call the Damn Leads logo in every airport across the country. We have hats, keychains, swag. I know there's millions and millions of sales professionals out there who need to hear this reminder. So professionally, our big goal is that by the year 2030, we're in every airport across the country. And personally, if I can hit that goal, then I'll know from a financial and a freedom aspect, we've achieved everything we need to achieve to keep living the life that we're getting blessed by the Lord to keep living right now. And so that's where we're at, man. That's where we're headed.
That's good. I'm going to leave a thought with everybody. This is about building a relationship with prospects, that they're human beings and we think the best of them. But there's a saying a long time ago that I heard a long time ago. It's a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So this helps us to build that relationship with the people that we want to serve or help with our product relationship, whatever that might be. So it has been a delight, Drewbie. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity and the honor. It was all mine.
It was a great pleasure to have this conversation. And thank you to our viewers and listeners. We appreciate you joining in on this conversation. And if you haven't already, please share this channel and give us a like, a subscribe, share with your friends, because I am positive there's a name rolling around in your head that Ruby or Jim needs to hear this. And yes, they do. We will confirm that thought that you're having. Whoever your friend's name is that you're thinking, they absolutely do need to hear this. So after you've done sharing it and after you've been over to Drewbie's website, there's one more thing that I'd love for you to do, and that's give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast player for 5 a.m. podcast. And I guess the dog is pulling on my leg here because he wants some treats, which means I need to ask you guys to go over to buymeacoffee.com/5am podcast. Throw a few virtual bucks in the barrel. We've upgraded from the coffee cup of Buy Me a Coffee to an actual barrel because that's how much coffee we can drink. So thank you again, everyone, for your love and support. Until next time, may you seize your day, walk in God's blessings, and get up and enjoy those sunrises and those sunsets. I'm Michael Klassen.